Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Dano Crypto. I see you guys are here, hitting the like button. What's going on? Thank you for being here. I see some people are a little down in the dumps, but it's okay. Sometimes that market open will get you. The market open got us today, my friends, and we'll explain how, we'll explain why, and we'll explain how that still proves that our strategy works, because the moment that we don't do our strategy, we get completely rocked. But on the other side, we'll go to the positive. We actually have a major metric that we haven't talked about in a while. And that metric is the supply of Bitcoin that's on exchanges is actually going down. So this had been something that we covered last year. I don't even remember. It was a while ago, but we were going off of some data that actually Binance and Bybit did. Binance and Bybit did this report where they were like, okay, something's about to happen here, because the rate of the accumulation of Bitcoin, now that we're seeing in this better regulatory climate under the Trump administration, we can see now that the accumulation rate is now increasing, and the exchanges balances are going down because we have people sending Bitcoin off of exchanges, holding it into cold storage, holding it into, their cold storage wallets. This is something that I am doing on a small scale. So just imagine how this is going to affect the supply and demand mechanism of Bitcoin. And that's kind of what like plan B goes into. He's like, plan B on his chart goes into how this accumulation and distribution of Bitcoin goes through these cycles, and mainly after the halving years, where we go into a very interesting bull market where it's got a lot of shakeouts, it's got a lot of capitulations, and people think it's over, and it seems a little toppy, but then all of a sudden you get super surprised, and we get these crazy movements to the upside. And I'll show you on the Binance chart. That's the chart that I always like to show, that shows these moments where you get kind of shaken out. And it even happened in 2021 where it was very volatile, but towards the end of the last 2 to 3 months of it was the most action. But from the bottom, you can see that from each cycle after halving year, we just fly. So this is also going to create now, with the combination of this supply shock that I'm mentioning, the cup and handle breakout can kind of confirm this, along with the exchanges balances going down in Bitcoin and accumulation rate going up. Then we can probably hit this target sooner than you might think. And so my target is 150,000 by September or so. But then if you're going by how many days it took for Bitcoin to peak after a particular halving, so you got the 2016 halving, you got the 2020 halving, and then you have the 2024 halving. And so right here's the 2024 halving. In the average days that we get the pump, or the max, or at least average peak, is 500 days. And so that brings us into September. So this is where I think in the macro Bitcoin could be going. But with that, it's still going to be really volatile to trade, because it's going to be swinging around. We actually charted this. We were I think this was Friday when we were saying, hey, this looks like an inverse head and shoulders forming on the daily. So at a point, it's going to trade up here, up to the neckline of the head of this, whatever you want to call this pattern. I guess, inverse head and shoulders, whatever. But either way, it's just price action and price structure that seems to be respecting these levels. You can see where this wick on the daily today hit right here and was kind of respecting this level. If we would have been really watching, we would have been a lot more patient with the market open to let it cool off a little bit. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, S. Rodriguez. Good morning, everyone who is in here today. We appreciate you. Good morning, Chris Profit. Good morning, JR. Stay calm. Good morning, Cabrera. But yeah, so this could be doing some type of, I guess, a Wyckoff accumulation. So we were looking at some charts here. We'll go to our profile because we just reposted them. We have this Wyckoff accumulation, I guess, happening on a daily scale. So if you look at this, kind of matches. You're like, okay, looks like it's doing some distribution, and then once it gets up to the top here, we have some other funny pictures to show you. It seems like this is where it can get a little dicey, and it's a little tricky to trade this. But once you get a good entry, then it is a potential that we can ride this thing into the next level and the next markup, which is, the all-time high was about 109,000. But then the next resistance levels that we're going to be targeting is this. You can see it. I mean, it's just pretty clear. You can see a giant order block here at 99,006, and you can see that this was mega resistance from the point that we just broke down off of. You can see it on the descending wedge here, and this is what has been so tricky, I think, has been chopping traders up, because you can see in this descending wedge right here that it was hard to tell if we were going to get smashed right here. We could have broken down still more. We could have been trading down in this channel. It's continuation, but I think this break right here and a break above the 200-day moving average was a good signal to say, okay, I think we're done going down this descending wedge, and then we can start trading the next price structure, which is up above this 91,000, which is good. So we're in a good spot. So if we can continue this kind of same price structure, if it is going to do this pattern, some people don't believe in patterns. They're like, whatever, it's just price structure and news and this all, and volume, liquidity. Is volume in, and is it respecting, previous support and resistance? And if it forms a pattern, okay, cool, that might help your brain to maybe see, maybe there are these patterns. Because look, I mean, kind of looks like this, if they're a Wyckoff accumulation where it kind of zigzags in a range and then breaks and retests and does kind of like a double bottom to then go back into the other key resistance levels, which is kind of exactly what we did. We did this double bottom and retest, and now we're back into the top of the structure here, which is another type of kind of W pattern that happens where it gets kind of does one of these things, goes up and then it goes do, and then that's how this could be supported. And if it does that, then that's a pretty decent break to the upside. Be a pretty decent break to the upside. We can clear 99, but that resistance is going to be hot. So if you're going to be trading this and you're trading, you're scalping, just know that once we break this resistance right here, that's that 96, then we can probably shoot to 99 pretty fast, but we'll probably hit some immediate resistance up there. So if you're trading, that's probably a good, probably good take profit level, where you can at least just know that, hey, if the market decides it wants to meet heavy resistance there and drop right back down to maybe where your entry was, you just made a really smart play by hitting a take profit. And also, you can trail your stop loss up, all that good stuff, and you can be protected. But if you're just accumulating, you're DCAing, you don't care. You're like, cool, I'll buy here, I'll freaking buy the top. I'll Michael Saylor buy the top, and you'll still be in nice profit, going up into some of these ranges where we should be heading anytime soon here, guys. But thanks for coming in today. Really appreciate it. And make sure you are hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and dinging the bell. You have to hit the bell and all, because I think YouTube is having a hard time notifying people that are subscribed to my channel that I'm actually going live. Apparently someone has the bell dinged and they are still not getting notified. So help me out with that. That'll help out the overall algorithm and metrics and all that stuff. That would be pretty swell. So we had some funny pictures because we were we were replying to Sam Price's video of his Dubai flight in first class, and it brought me back to my Dubai flight with my family in December. We went to Dubai, and it was great. It was an awesome trip, but it like if you're not in first class on a 16-hour flight or however long it was, 15-hour flight, you're gonna end up on the damn floor. So that's where I was, huddled up to my Emirates doll on the floor. I was like, I could not. I was trying every single type of position and type of way. I felt like my back was broken, and I was like, I have to lay out straight on the floor, or I feel like I'm gonna die. And so I bet that gave old Sam Price a laugh there as he's getting to recline in first class. But hey, you know what? We've done the McDonald's value meal crypto journey. The Value Express. Oh my gosh. But yeah, this also was really funny. Shout out to Naive. Here's the plans. Here's all the plans. If plan A doesn't work, you can just keep going down plans. Like, all right, trading, nope, that's not working. All in the negative. Yeah, plan D. Plan D's become a marry a sugar mama. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was cracking me up. All right, so we got a couple other things that we reposted. Let's see. Yeah, it was the comment on Ripple. Windio says, XRP is the top altcoin, hands down. I do not make the rules. Retail did. You know, it is interesting. You know, some retail, they seem to be pretty interested in XRP. And maybe it's because I think TikTok and Instagram, the XRP army, I mean, they're pretty vocal, and they're making like their own ad campaigns for XRP for it to reach, you know, these insane prices where like the market cap is like astronomical, and a lot of times they're like it's going to $500. But you know, I would say a good price target here in the short term, though, you know, we'll at least give you the short, because I mean, we really don't know. I mean, we could, you know, blast off and all of a sudden there's just like all this massive liquidity coming into XRP, and it just shoots to the moon, and it, you know, it goes to, you know, $105, you know, it goes to $100. It's just, I just don't know about how the chart has been distributed. It just seems like it's a very hard chart to follow in terms of where and what it can do in the price discovery zone, like what it just did. I mean, it basically got to close to its all-time high, but it's taken a long time for it to do that from its creation point. So if it is adopted by the banks, and it is, you know, it's with the stable coin, we got the RL, you know, RLUSD. They're partnering up with, I think, Coinbase. They're partnering up with as many, you know, providers as they can, so then they can have their stable coin as an option. I mean, maybe on, I mean, it's probably, I don't know if it would be an option on PayPal, because then that's in competition with the PYUSD, which is the PayPal stable coin. So it's interesting. Like when you think about the stable coins, that could be the key of like, okay, whose has the most stablecoin allocation, and who's minting the most stablecoins and getting that liquidity on chain, and can that increase the value of the actual token itself? It's a possibility. So with XRP, I would say a good price target for XRP to hit if we just get just some bullish altcoin momentum, not even just from Bitcoin, but we have to, we have to have some Bitcoin movements. We have to have ETH, going up a little bit. Have to have ETH doing something. So how much did ETH pump when we had XRP breakout here? So what was that date? What was that date? We'll go back real quick. Go to XRP, and then we have, that was like right before the election. We have November, beginning of November, and it broke out 400%. And then let's go to ETH BTC and see how the ETH BTC chart looked during that time. It actually kind of broke out a little bit as well. So like ETH BTC actually like went up 27%. But then let's look at ETH itself. And then ETH did this inverse head and shoulders. You can see it. It's like inverse head and shoulders. And then from there, so ETH went up 44% over from the beginning of November last year. So who pumped? I wanted to who pumped first? Was it ETH? Because we had on the 6th here, ETH went up 12%. And if we go back to XRP, we go to, so basically, I guess my point here is what I'm discovering is that when ETH does well, the markets for altcoins do well. And so if they've all been kind of bleeding to Bitcoin, and ETH BTC pair was going down, but then once it hit a point where it went up like 27%, is that what we need for another run on ETH and another continuation of altcoins going up to the upside? Because if that happens, then here's your case for the the XRP pump. Possibly the length of this pull here for the for a bull flag breakout, then I could see a $7 XRP. That's realistic. See, that's a pretty good conservative XRP call that we get $7. We kind of come up here, do one of these. We're going to have some resistance for sure up at the top again. We're going to have to clear here, but we could trudge up to $7. Now this, I think, has to rely on the rest of the market. You got total market cap excluding BTC and ETH. I think we've maybe broken out of this consolidation here. You can see that was the bottom. We're starting to get up into these next little layers here. Well, to be honest, like retail, you guys got to remember, it's that retail's not even here. Do you understand that the people that are on Pump Fund are people from last cycle that are just like, they're just gambling, or people that they're already in crypto And it's maybe like a small percentage of new people. It's not as many people as you think. I really don't think it as many people as you think. The addresses and the action, a lot of it are probably bot. It's like bot automation. So, and all the addresses and the action and the volume, it's not as much as you think. It is not even close to what it was where we had actual retail on Robinhood buying Dogecoin. It's not even close. That's why most of the altcoins are down under their 200-day moving average as a whole. You know, they're like, we are being fooled in thinking that retail kind of came back, but they're not even close. And even Benjamin Cohen makes a good point. He made a video about it, of the social risk of being in crypto, and we're not even near what we were when the GameStop things were happening, the run on Wall Street, just that whole movement that kind of spurred and actually got people interested in even looking at the stock market, or even trying to get into, investing, looking at charts. Like, that was a whole revolution of a demographic of people that weren't interested at all. And then we went through COVID and the inflation and the money printing. And then that's what actually got people into crypto or memes or just that whole thing. And then with the help of Elon, Elon was signaling to that he was part of the movement with posting about Dogecoin. And so that was a whole different type of retail coming in. And then we almost had retail coming back, and then we had the FTX crash. We got rugged by all the exchanges, and then retail was like, F this, I am not coming back. And they have been looking from way outside. Like, we're still here because we're insane. Like, you're still here because we have mental disorder issues. And so our risk is very high. And so we have a different belief. The people that are like way out, they're going to have some major signaling for them to download a crypto app again, or even be explained in a conversation what a seed phrase is, or having a wallet. It's just us here is the point that I'm trying to make. So if it's still just us here, and institutions are the reason why money is the charts are even moving, then we're early as hell. We're so early. We're very, very early. But it's not going to be easy, because I think a lot of people are still very frustrated. I think when you're trying to trade the market, it is very frustrating. It is not easy. You got to remember, you have like billions of dollars going against you. You have billions of dollars going against you. And if you don't have an edge or an instinct and have very quick, fast, instinctual moves, you're going to get wrecked. So you just have to accept that and know that whilst doing this, that is what is the consequence. And the variables and the probabilities that you have to assess in being in any market that's a trading market, or trying to trade whilst you're trading with maybe hundreds of dollars. You have billions of dollars of offshore exchange manipulation happening with Coinbase and Binance, and they're going to win. They are going to win. They will always win. They know. You don't. It's just a fact. So that's why you have to just accept that and know, if you can get in and out, cool. If you lose, you're not dumb. It's just you got more going against you, brothers and sisters. Like, it's just a fact. Like, these candles and wick manipulation you think is retail? Absolutely not. It's not. It's not even close. So when we start to see like true God candle Dogecoin era, Elon posting SNL, whatever, Robinhood trying to stop the sell button because actual people were really hitting the buy button and also real people were making money and tried to sell, and they were like, whoa, 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 whoa. They were like, stop at the train. We'll get back there soon, but you got to be on the side and have the proper portfolio diversified where it's not all in Robinhood. You have your own wallets. You learned this time. You got it in some wallets that you control. Now they even made it even easier where you don't have to send it to an exchange to even cash out. It's just linked to your debit card now. You can cash out in clips. You can actually swap it over to some stable coin, and then now because you have a debit card that you can use with MetaMask or whatever platform you might be using, you can just spend it right there. Just swap it over, bridge it over. So now you can really have the freedom to reap the benefits of a run, if you believe there's a run coming and we still have some room to grow. Because technically, if we're not even above in the halfway point of this purple box, we have some room to grow. And the supply shock will be coming. It is inevitable at this point of a supply shock for Bitcoin. Now, ETH is just kind of a different story. ETH is weird, and we know it. It's been terrible. I mean, if you look at the monthly candles on ETH, it's just not good. I think it's like, how many red monthly candles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red monthly candles since the beginning of the since the beginning of the year. So why do you think there's no altcoin season, or that people are like, okay, because ETH has had 5 red monthly candles, and the only time we had other true altcoin seasons where alts were running was when ETH was not doing that, when ETH was performing well. So so my thesis, Rand asked a question. He was like, what's your thesis for ETH to why ETH? Now what is your case for ETH? Well, because we need it to do well, damn it. We need it to do well. And I think we could all agree that we would like it to do well because of what I'm explaining here. When it does do well, it makes even XRP pump. It even makes XRP do well. But there was other factors in XRP besides ETH doing well. We obviously have all the case dismissals. We got all the bullish things with XRP with the stable coins and the blah blah blah. The mention of XRP in the crypto stockpile. There were factors, of course. So let's see what Brad Garlinghouse has to say.
Here is massive. You have trillions of dollars flowing cross-border globally. It's still largely dominated by the SWIFT network, if you will. And that's architecture, that's a technology architecture that's developed 50 years ago. There's an opportunity to modernize. That takes time, particularly when you have a government in the U.S. kind of combating that innovation. But that's changing now. The Trump effect, if you will, is profound. You're seeing that in asset prices, but you're also going to see that in the adoption of these technologies.
Yeah, and I think, so when you're looking at the growth story then of Ripple, does it still come from overseas, or are you expecting a change in terms of domestic interest in Ripple?
Well, we're definitely already seeing a change in the domestic interest. These 6 weeks after President Trump was elected, we signed more deals in the United States than we had in the previous 6 months. So these are very innovative technologies. I think they're going to play out over 10, even 20 years in terms of how they integrate and rewire the financial infrastructure of the United States. That's across payments. That's across even the settlement of maybe real estate transactions, securities transactions. So I think we're going to see this play out over a long arc. But the United States is finally unlocked, and I think people are underestimating how big that change is, and you'll see that continue to play out this year.
And 100%, I agree with what he's talking about. With it's a kind of an overarching arc of liquidity coming into these markets because of the flippening and these payment rails being recognized, and then the stable coins being minted, and the different contracts like with real estate and the property management, and just like a tokenization of real world assets. That's a big narrative as well. So it is going to be huge. So I think what can happen, we have this chart, the total market cap, where this thing and how it's going to increase in that much value is that it is breaking out in a cup and handle pattern as well. And we've seen that, where look at how, if it can respect that pattern, what it did with gold and what has happened with gold, where gold just hit the key breakout point of this cup and handle. But it was an overarching, accumulation of gold since 2008. So I mean, the moment that the 2008 financial crisis happened, gold has been the thing. Gold was like the thing to accumulate. And then what's interesting is that Bitcoin was created out of that financial crash and instability, and the one of the biggest crashes to date. And what is referenced a lot too, and what is fascinating is that from that point, sentiment just kind of went into gold and was like, okay. You think right there, it was like, $700 an ounce, and now it's at $3,300 an ounce. So this was long arcing. Now, can the total cryptocurrency market have that overarching progression as well? Then that would bring it to the total cryptocurrency market cap of everything combined, when all that liquidity, like Brad Garlinghouse is talking about, kind of overarcs and gets to towards the end of 2026, into 2025, beginning of 2026, we could be past 7 trillion. Because if it can break that depth of the cup here, you can see here's the depth of the cup. And can we start to get to that point? Because I have it kind of marked here where it's like, okay, 7 trillion by at least like going into the middle of this year, third quarter or something like that. You can kind of see it. So really the name of the game here, and the point that I could be making, is that if you just accumulate strong projects that are fitting the narrative of what Brad Garlinghouse just said, of the projects that are getting that liquidity, they're going to be like, if XRP is going to be the de facto kind of example of how they're going to be domestically supported, then this is signaling for things like Cardano and Chainlink and all the the big altcoins. And then also with Solana, you think Litecoin. We got AVAX signaling a lot of bullish momentum, and that was just a little basket of coins. That's just a basket of coins, and if you put enough in and accumulate at these lows, and then you just kind of are able to hold through some of the volatility of getting into these areas between $4 trillion market cap, total market cap, in between up to 7, or just say, all right, if Bitcoin can and ETH can get to these particular price points, you can DCA in, DCA out on the way up into these points, and you might do pretty well. Instead of trading, instead of like having to try and time the markets or whatever, or trade it or day trade it, you might make more money just being super patient, accumulating strong projects that have been signaled by the Trump administration alone, and not to mention just the whales who are accumulating, a lot of these fundamental projects that we mentioned, and just be patient, because it's hard. It's hard. That's probably the hardest thing right now is to try and be patient. You're getting, you're succumbing to FOMO. You're might be too much on the timeline, looking at other people and what they're doing. You got Ansem shilling Housecoin and other other things where it's just like it's like there's always going to be this. It's always going to be like that. Extraction. And I think too, what's interesting is that I think there's peak extraction at points where you should be paying attention to fundamental projects. And it's just, it's funny how the whole point of why there might be the extraction point is because those same people are extracting money so then they can buy the fundamental projects. So do you think they're buying the memes or the house coin or whatever that is to then hold it for the long term? No, they're getting it to then extract so then they can accumulate the stuff that they just pulled your attention from. That's exactly what happened in 2023, where a lot of stuff came out, extracted money out of the projects that were actually were signaling that they could have longevity. Those things died, and then the things that you got your attention pulled away from pumped again, and then actually lasted and became some of the biggest and most and meme coins to last through the bear market. It's the same. It seems like the same play. It's just like, oh, that's why they're doing it. That's my guess. Because at a point, it's like, what do you think they're gonna put? What do you think they're putting it in once they cash out? Oh yeah, and Brett, honestly, and that was the interesting thing about Brett, is that like there were all like Brett signaled that it was like very strong, and then it was kind of like you either stuck with it and became a Brett Maxi, or you tried to gamble on some other stuff, and then you ended up selling your Brett or just not accumulating, trying to chase the other stuff, and now Brett is signaling that it can get back to $1 billion and before whatever projects you might have been trying to chase. And so this could be a very, very valuable lesson for us to then think like, okay, well, your initial instincts of what you found were right. And you could also, and this is a really good case of why I think Brett, so look at the candles going down from the monthly candles. And this is 100% because of ETH. I don't know if I did that right. So you see the ETH chart, and Brett followed ETH like perfect. But now Brett has actually been breaking out even while ETH has been underperforming a little bit. So even just that ETH went up like a little bit over 1,800, Brett then on the month here for April has gone up a total of 109%. So Very, very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Now we can go compare Brett with Pepe. We can do that. So we'll go to the Pepe chart on the monthly, and now we'll put Brett here, and we'll do that. And this is fascinating as well. It's like when Pepe's doing well, Brett does really well because they are best friends. That's the whole lore of the boys club, right? And the returns on these coins, if we get to all-time highs, this is great. It's like you could, I'm still going to trade. Here's the thing. I'm going to trade. I'm still going to try and put in some injuries and stuff like that. But like, I think I'm going to step back a little bit from thinking I need to like try and trade every day. Like, I feel like if I focused on just getting some good solid entries, if I see them, I see them, cool. But really, I think it's like lock-in season to accumulate, because that's the name of the game at the end of the day. Is like, you think about the people that were like Shiba Inu whales, Dogecoin whales, Bitcoin whales. They didn't have to trade. They just bought, and they practiced patience and risk aversion and learning the volatility of the markets and having a diversified portfolio that is 70% Bitcoin, maybe even 80% Bitcoin. They've learned. Benjamin Cohen explained it. He was like, on the first cycle that I was in, I was pretty much like a lot in all. He was like in altcoins, and then over time he realized that altcoins would eventually bleed into Bitcoin when times got tough, and the dominance of Bitcoin would go up during these points in the cycle. And then it's fascinating how there's only certain very key indicators that can signal, okay, altcoins are good to be in right now and not in Bitcoin. But then over time, if your portfolio ends up being like kind of even 30 or 40% alts, you're going to be down a lot more if you had not just bought Bitcoin over time. So if you had just accumulated Bitcoin over a period of even through the bear markets, you would still be outperforming most altcoins. There's some outliers, but year over year, if you were just actually have a stronger diversification into Bitcoin against alts and maybe had 20% alts, your portfolio would not be suffering as much. And then if you can wait till the pain, over the pain point, because there's always like a pain point where our portfolios hit that pain point where it went down enough to where some people probably sold and got fearful and exited out completely because they were like, I can't lose any more money. Some people did that. That's like people at this point of the market, when we just went down like to $74,000, there were some people that probably sold at a loss. And they were like, I can't do it. So once we get through this pain point, which I think we're getting towards, then it's basically off to the freaking races. And the whales have been accumulating things like Pepe. They've been accumulating things like Brett. And surprisingly, guys, you know who's also been accumulating ETH like crazy people? The Trump administration. And all the gang. They're buying ETH up like crazy. BlackRock's buying up ETH. And you guys are thinking that ETH is dead and that it's like because it's like quote Internet Explorer, but Right now we are at just we are at the prime time. You look at these monthly charts and it just makes me so bullish. Like if you just look at the monthly charts, that's where the bullishness is. It really is true. Like I believe that the true bullishness is in the monthly charts. You know, you can really get a better perspective. And sometimes when you're just like trying to day trade, or you're looking at the 5 minute, you're looking at the 45 minute, looking at how the things are moving on the hourly, who cares? At a point where you're like, the dang thing is at its lows from 2022. Okay? Most altcoins are down close to their lows from 2022, and we're in 2025, okay? And now that we have the green light, that is specifically even in the United States of America, that we're like wanting to be the crypto capital of the world, the tariffs in terms of a negotiation strategy has been working. Even though the media wants to paint like the stock market, it was going to see the biggest crash and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. They haven't mentioned anything about how it recovered, or how now that the deals are signaling in the good direction, that now companies are figuring out a way to then now play ball. So then the stock market is actually now recovering. And every time that they've done this, there was a tweet where anytime that the CNBC or any of the mainstream media covering the markets say the biggest crash in the blah blah blah, blood in the streets, that a few months later they end up the markets end up recovering like 20% on average or 30% on average. And this is the stock market. So now imagine with crypto, just triple that, so just now imagine that couple months, we're going to get Brett back at, probably that 30, we're probably hit an all-time high with Brett, to be honest, 30 cents. Pepe will hit an all-time high. You can see Solana revenue on dexes like Radium are off the charts. So of course I think this thing could get back into its like $8 range, but bull market territory from 2021 here. Maybe even crush it. I mean, it's sky's the limit here. Dogecoin, we talked about Doge. Like Doge is in such a sweet zone of accumulation. Look at this. Like Doge is under its 200-day moving average, which is 26 cents. Our monthly average here, if you're going on the daily 200-day, then it's at more like 23 cents. But look at the RSI. Just go on the monthly charts, my friends, and everything will be okay. If you're thinking about quitting, just know that these monthly charts look so freaking bullish. It just looks so bullish on the monthly charts. And we should just put ETH here to see why we need ETH to do well. Because when ETH does well, every freaking altcoin basically signals a run. It's like it just wants to. Not all of them. Not all of them do well. I mean, you got to think. Look, Gala probably was one of those that you were like, man, that has just been underperforming. But then you look at things like Render, and you're like, dang, that really did well when ETH did well. So they're not all created equal in that sense. Could say the kind of the same thing. Polkadot kind of, but not as heavy. Not as, you know, a little bit. Sui was one of those where we're just like, whoa. This one really, when ETH was going, this thing just, you know, has just been flying. Tron kept up the momentum pretty well, and I think a lot of it signaled with a brief Tron meme season, and then also the Trump administration and World Liberty Financial investing heavily into Tron and kind of recognizing them as a high liquidity chain when it comes to the stable coins. So pretty, you know, that's on the radar. The stuff that we're very bullish on, you know, Polygon ecosystem, I'm still bullish on SHIB and Floki as kind of the de facto, like, you know, flagship dog coins on ETH. Ticker Bitcoin. We're gonna see this thing just start flying again. So it's inevitable. You know, every time ETH has a nice pump, the ticker does well. It's just following ETH, that's all. Chainlink. Bullish on Crow. I'm a little skeptical on trying to even trade or even enter into Sui because it's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's talks of it of a Pokemon partnership with Sui. So that could make it. I mean, Pokemon is going off the charts right now. And you guys realize how popular Pokemon is becoming again? I mean, it is going off the chain. It's almost like 1999 level. I can feel it. It's like my daughter, she's 6 and she loves Pokemon. She loves, like, you know, collecting the cards and the whole vibe of it. So if that's the case, I mean, yeah, then this thing could just kind of fly off and just kind of go into major price discovery zone. And then we'll be kicking ourselves that we didn't even, you know, buy Sui at $3 because it ends up going to, you know, 11. And even then, you know, it's still pretty good. You know, I mean, 215%. Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, in the title, sorry, guys, you know, we were trying to cover as much as we could. But yes, the ETF for ETH, let's check those flows real quick. Let's check these flows. It's, is it far side? Is it ETF? Oh, no. Forgot. I did something real crazy. I accidentally, like, cleared, like, almost all the cookies, all the things on my Firefox browser, my history, all the things. I, like, completely, like, wiped it. I was trying to it just felt like it was being so slow, and so I ended up clearing way too much. I was like, that is not what I wanted to do. But so I have to kind of reassess and re-sign into all my stuff. I'm sure you guys have done that before. This Farside ETF. I kept saying fair side. That's why it wasn't coming up. I was saying fair side. All right, so the Ethereum, yeah. So we had some decent flows on Friday. It was 104 million. So they're kind of ponying up a little bit on the. They're ponying up on the ETH ETF. And so this was my kind of thesis and breakdown of, like, people ask, like, how is ETH actually going to get to all-time highs? What is going to be the catalyst? Because obviously retail's not coming in to buy ETH. I mean, maybe they'll look at ETH as a cheaper option to Bitcoin because in terms of, like, price, the retail mind is going to think, okay, ETH is under $2,000. I could probably get one of those. Okay, Bitcoin is at 100K. I can't get a whole Bitcoin right now. So and some retail, actually, they don't know that you can get portions or like divisible. They don't realize that like you can divisibly buy the crypto. And that's a whole nother conversation. The people that don't know about crypto, or they don't know about investing, or they don't know about anything about fractional buying, they still think that you have to buy a whole Bitcoin. That's a whole nother conversation of onboarding for people that have no freaking clue. Because when I've talked to people, they still don't understand that you could just buy $50 of Bitcoin or buy $100 of Bitcoin, because they don't know that it's divisible in Satoshis. So that's crazy. So once that whole group of people understand just that simple fact, that's when I think some true retail accumulation will come in. They'll go, what? I thought I had to buy a whole Bitcoin this whole time. But there's still just going to be people that are like, oh, I can buy more of those because they're cheaper. I can actually buy a whole one of those. But the thesis, or at least my thought process on ETH is that the BlackRocks and the Fidelities and the big money, they are going to come into those ETFs because they've been accumulating ETH like crazy at these lows, and they've been selling off. Whoever's been selling off, Ethereum Foundation, whoever, old ETH whales or something, transferring over to Sui or Solana or going to a different chain, and then whilst BlackRock and all those institutions are scooping up ETH super, super cheap, because I think they're going to funnel it into the modalities of the ETFs, and then the ETFs are going to earn yield. The ETFs are going to earn yield for that big institutional money, the big money, and that's how ETH ends up getting saved, essentially. It gets saved. It's going to do this thing. I think it's just going to do, I don't know what this is, like a funky ball sack or something. I don't know, but but whatever kind of pattern they're wanting to try and mog us right now on ETH. I think that's why I'm still believing in ETH, because of they're going to do the same playbook, I believe, like they did with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was doing the thing. It was chopping around. They were like, it's never going to go at 100K. People were calling for another funeral for Bitcoin. Like, it's done. The ETF is not going to save it. Peter Schiff was like, this is, it's a false attempt. It's never going to, and then it ends up outperforming and outperforming and being one of the most successful ETF launches and volume going into it in history. And this is what made it actually go to all-time highs and over 100K. So it took a little bit. It didn't happen overnight. It took us a few months to get through the process. Big money has to move a little slower. It's not going to be like overnight, like green candles. I think it's going to be that annoying, boring kind of thing. But even though it's going to be like that, I think once it does happen, then we will see that crazy accumulation into the alts like Pepe. Because these whales know once that happens and you got a fat bag of Pepe or Brett or AVAX, Sol, whatever your altcoin is, who cares at a point? We just need ETH to do the thing. And so hopefully the big boys will play along, and what I'm talking about will play out with the ETF inflows. And we'll get our precious altcoin season. But all right, guys. thanks for coming in. Just do me a favor. Just check all the links in the description, and I will see you guys on the next live stream.